Yo, let's talk about vending and vendor supplies. What's happening, everybody? Boy Big Brando, and today we're going to be talking all about vendor equipment, vendor supplies, everything from tents, tables, displays, and so much more. The reason why I'm making this video is because I'm gearing up currently to vend at one of my biggest events for the year, and that is a Hawaiian festival that goes down every July. It's located here in the South Bay of California. More specifically, I'm talking about Lawndale, California. It's going down at Alondra Park the third weekend of July. I believe this weekend, I think it's like July 20th and 21st or 21st and 22nd, something like that. But it's a Saturday and Sunday event. Third weekend in July, I'll be out there selling my goods. But every time around this year or after this event's done, people always want to know, where did I get the stuff that I use to vend? And can I make more videos about vending, like gearing up for the actual event? So here I am making this video now. So a little backstory about this event. This is one of the biggest Hawaiian festivals here in Southern California. There's like 200 vendors here. There's food, there's community clubs, there's retailers, there's a little bit of everything here. It's a free event and it's all outdoors in this big ass park. So this is how I get set up for this thing, and I kind of want to share some of the tips and things with you guys, especially if you're vending at somewhere outdoors or this is a new event for you that you're going to be vending at. I want to give you guys a few pointers, I guess, and some things to look out for. So first thing is going to be the tent, right? Everybody sees these tents. They're usually 10 by 10. Sometimes they're all white, they're all black. Sometimes you have a custom one that has your logo on top, or there's those ones that look like blue canopies that you would see at like a soccer game. There's a big difference within these tents. When you're looking for a tent or a canopy or an easy up, whatever you want to call it, you want to look for a vendor style tent. So you could go on Amazon right now and you could type in vendor tent, vendor 10 by 10, vendor 10x10 tent, and they'll all pop up. The difference between the ones you see at the soccer games and the ones that we're talking about here, these vendor ones have straight poles. The legs are straight up and down. Now you're probably thinking, man, the one I seen at the soccer game looks like their poles are straight. Those ones are a little bit bent in. So the tents that are like $100 or something like that, usually they don't go all the way up. Like, you can't extend them really high. These vendor style ones, they're made for people that sell food, for products, whatever it is. These are the ones that you see at farmers markets, at craft fairs. These are the ones that you see at the swap meets, stuff like that. These tents go high as hell. So that way, if somebody's 6'3" walking into your tent, they're not going to be banging their head on the poles. They're not going to get injured within the tent. Also, a lot of those tents that you would see like at Big Five and stuff like that, like the cheaper ones that have the slanted legs, those ones don't have a lot of support in the middle. These vendor style ones, the way that the skeleton is built out, a lot of them have support in the middle, so they're built to withstand crazy weather. They're not going to collapse on the inside. The material of the actual tent is a little bit better also. It's built to withstand the elements. Now, how do you withstand crazy winds, stuff like that? You would either have to get weights, sandbags, or stakes. It all depends on your conditions. If you're setting up your tent on cement, obviously you can't jam a stake into the cement. So you're gonna have to look for weights. They make weighted plates that just go around the legs and they slide down, or they make sandbags that go around them, or they sell these little plates that like lay flat and then you put the weight on top of the plate and it holds it down. Or you could use the old string attached to the weight, or attached to a bucket full of sand, or attached to sandbags. However you want to weigh this thing down, you have to adjust to whatever conditions you're vending in. So that's the first thing. Look for a vendor style tent. Those ones are a little bit more expensive. Like, you could even buy them at Costco and Sam's Club, and I think they're like $200, maybe like $180. But always check Amazon. Amazon got a bunch of different stuff. The ones I like to use are the ones that don't have square legs. Sometimes they're shaped like octagons, or the edges aren't as sharp. Those ones slide a little bit better, especially if it's gonna be sandy or dusty. Whenever you're sliding those things in and out, I don't know if you ever set one up in the sand and the sand gets in there, and then now it's hard to like adjust the poles because the sand's grinding inside of there. They make these other ones that have like rounded edges, so it's not a perfect square. And those ones slide a little bit better. They usually have rings or big push buttons to adjust the legs and adjust the accordion style, like when you're closing it up or opening it up. I like to make my life easier, especially if I'm vending by myself and I don't have somebody to help me pull the thing apart and open it up. I like to get one that's pretty easy to fold open, and I could do it by myself in sections. So I always keep that in mind. The other good thing about finding these vendor tents is they usually come with 4 walls. So having the walls helps out, especially if you want to block out like your neighbors and you don't want just your tent to be open next to other people and you want to kind of close it off. Having those extra walls helps. Some of them have Velcro on top, so you can just Velcro the walls. Some of them have little snaps and clips that attach to the actual frame. Whatever it is, it's always good to have those extra walls. If your tent doesn't come with those walls, Amazon sells 10 by 10 walls. So you can always buy some aftermarket ones that have like ties on them. You could, block your stuff off. They sell them in different colors, whatever it is. Now, next thing is going to be tables. Sometimes if you're vending somewhere, they might provide a table, like one 6-foot table or one 8-foot table. For myself, I use 6-foot tables and I get the ones that fold in half. The reason I get the ones that fold in half, it's easier to transport that way. I'm always putting tablecloths down anyways to cover the table, so it doesn't matter if there's a seam down the middle. It's just easier for transportation. For myself, the booth that I do at this Hawaiian festival is 10 by 20. So it's 2 10 by 10 tents, and then I have to fill that thing up. So I usually bring 4 tables, 6-foot tables. So I have to fold those down, throw them in the back of my truck. Sometimes I'll bring 5 tables just to have a table in the back, whether it's for wrapping up orders, whether it's for storage, whether it's just there for eating, whatever it is. Sometimes I always have an extra one on hand. They also sell 4-foot tables that fold in half. Those are always good to have in the back. But for myself, I like buying the tables that fold in half. Lifetime makes them. There's a few different brands. You can always look up on Amazon, just type in vendor table, and those folding ones will pop up. But like I said, check your Sam's Club, check your Costco. They got them there too. Now, speaking of those tablecloths, you could buy those on Amazon. A lot of times these things are made out of polyester, so you could decorate on them yourself too. You could put your own logo on the front. I like to just look up vendor tablecloth, vendor table cover. There's the kind that are like elastic where they like stretch over the table and then they hook on to underneath the table's feet. And I'm pretty sure you've seen those. It's just like one big piece of elastic wrapped around. The ones I like to use are the ones that have, it's kind of like 3 walls. It like falls all the way down to the ground of the table. So it's 6 foot across and then maybe like 2 feet of material covering. And then the back side is open so I could put my feet underneath. They sell those on Amazon too. And I think you can buy them in like a 2 or 3 pack for like 20, 30 bucks, something like that. And once again, you can press some HTV on them. You can press your own transfers on them, put your logo on them, do whatever you want. You could get them in different colors. I use black. It's just easier that way. So if they get dirty, you really can't see the dirt because I vend a lot outside. So I don't want to get some white ones that hit the ground and then it's going to be all dirty on the bottom. I'd rather just keep them black. Like I said, they're made out of polyester. So you could press your stuff on them. You could get, vinyl made for polyester, or you could get your DTF transfers made for polyester. Press those babies on, decorate them, do whatever you need to, put your logo on them, make it good for yourself, but you could buy them on Amazon also. I'm telling you guys what to look up when you're looking for supplies on Amazon. You want to look for vendor tent, vendor table, vendor tablecloth. That's all you have to type in and all these options will pop up for you. Next thing is going to be displays. A lot of people ask me about my grid walls. You could buy grid walls on Amazon also. Type in 6-foot grid wall or just type in vendor grid wall. They'll have some with stands. They'll have some that don't have stands. They'll have some on wheels. There's a lot of different options out there. The cool thing is these things come with all kind of different attachments to put onto the grid wall. So you could have the hooks to put up hangers. You could get the little hat rack one where it's like a little tray that falls in there and then you could stack up like 6 hats in there. There's so many different things to use with these grid walls. Back in the day when I used to use these grid walls, these suckers were heavy as hell. Now, whatever they're made out of, aluminum or whatever it is, they're a lot lighter. And you can usually buy them in like a 3 or a 4 pack too on Amazon. And I don't know, they're like $100 or something like that for like a pack of 3, or don't quote me on that. Just look up vendor grid wall or grid wall display on Amazon. That stuff will pop up. Now, when it comes to those grid walls, a good thing to always have is zip ties. You could buy that on Amazon. You could get it from Harbor Freight. You could get it from Home Depot. You could get zip ties basically anywhere. But just look up zip ties. You could get them in different sizes. That way you could strap them to your Easy Up tent or to your canopy or whatever. You have the one with the straight legs, so it'll be perfectly squared it off. You could put a grid wall on each leg. You could corner off your tent with 2 grid walls. You could hang the grid walls from the scissoring accordion style frame. You could hang it with zip ties there, and then hang shirts from there, hang hats from there, put your display up that way. Zip ties are a lifesaver. With zip ties, you're gonna need some wire cutters. So invest in some cool wire cutters from Home Depot, Harbor Freight, or Amazon. Any wire cutter will work as long as you could get up in there and snip them off. A lot of people think they get away with scissors, but sometimes it's hard to get the scissors in there, especially if you tied it down really tight. It's hard to get it in there. So if you use wire cutters, snips, or they call them dikes, any of those things that have a pretty strong front end to like cut something, easy call. Now, speaking of displays still, some people want to use shelves. Some people like to use different types of display cases. You can find all of that on Amazon also. This is not even a sponsored video by Amazon. I'm just telling you where I buy the stuff, where I look up stuff is always on Amazon. So if you just did shelf display, if you did tumbler display, hat display, there's options that pop up. And once it pops up, you just use your creative mind on how you can use something. Just because this display is made for cupcakes doesn't mean that you can't put your candles on there. Or just because this display is made for big ass candles or Funko Pops doesn't mean you can't put your hats on there or your tumblers on there or whatever you're selling. Even if you wanted like half torso mannequins for your t-shirts, all of that stuff can be found on Amazon just by typing in vendor displays, craft fair displays, shelf displays, or be very specific, candle displays, cupcake displays. Sometimes you can find a cupcake tower. It's made for cupcakes, but you could also put your greeting cards on there, or you could put other things that you sell on there. All of these displays, just because it says it's meant for this, doesn't mean that you can't put other things on there. You have to start to get creative once you see things. Like for me, whenever I go out, sometimes I'll look at baskets. This sounds really crazy, like decorative baskets that are going into like somebody's coffee table. Maybe it's made to hold like the remote control and just whatever's on the ottoman or whatever it is. But I'm like, man, if I turn that upside down, I could put hats on top of that. And then when I'm done using it, I could flip it back around and still use it as a regular basket and put all the hats that I had on display. They fit inside the basket for transportation. So it's stuff like that that I look at. Like if I'm at Hobby Lobby or if I'm at Home Goods or anywhere, I could be at Ross or Marshall's, and I see something, I'm like, you know what? These two baskets stacked up on each other will look really dope on top of this table, and I could use it for a hat display. Or I could buy these little fake plants and just use that as display decor on top of my table, just to add a little bit of color onto the table. There's so many different things that you can do that aren't made for vending. As long as you keep your creative mind open and you're out looking at stuff, you'll be like, man, that works. I could use this for this, or I could do this for this. And now you're building up your display for whatever you're selling. I hope the information shared here helps you guys out. During this little journey of me getting ready for this big event, I'll try to make some more videos, but if you wanted to see a lot of this stuff, you can find it on my Instagram, man. Follow me on Big Brando TV. I always post the event. I always post videos of what the booths look like and stuff like that. You can always go back and watch that to see what it looks like. But I think since I'm in the mode right now of getting ready for this thing, pressing shirts, getting designs ready, trying to build out the booth and all this stuff, I'll try to turn the camera on and talk about what I'm doing to hopefully help anybody out there that's trying to get into vending or figuring out some new ideas on stuff. But hopefully the tent information helps you guys out. Remember, you want the straight leg ones, not the slanted leg ones. You want one that raises up pretty high in case you have really tall customers. And remember, think about transportation when you're bringing this stuff to the event. So look for the tables that fold in half. That'll help you out. Oh, here's another tip too. Sometimes it's cool to like raise up the table a little bit higher than the regular standard, 3 feet or whatever it is. They sell these things at IKEA, or they sell them on Amazon too, but they're called bed risers. There's these little lifts that you put your bed frame on and it raises your bed up a little higher. I buy some of those. I buy the cheap plastic ones and I put my tables on top of those risers just to bring it up a little bit higher, so it gives the customer a little bit of a better advantage of grabbing your stuff, so they don't have to be hunched over or look down. Raises the table up a little bit more, especially if you have displays on top of it, or especially if you're using the table, like say you only have one table and you're using that table as like your register counter area It's always cooler to raise that up a little bit higher for people. Adds a different element inside your booth. So look for those bed risers. I think they're called bed risers or height adjusters or something like that, but they're made for beds. You don't have to buy the really expensive wooden ones. You could buy the cheap plastic ones. They kind of look like a little cone with the top chopped off. And all you do is just put those underneath the legs of your table. It'll raise the table up and now you have a higher table. I hope all this information helps somebody out there. All right. If you got any questions about any of this stuff, make sure you leave it in the comments for me. Follow me on Instagram, Big Brando TV, if you wanted to see the event or some of the lead up or some of the stories that I post on there. That's where I show a lot of the behind the scenes stuff or me working in the shop. All of that is on my Instagram. It doesn't live here on YouTube. It lives on the Instagram. Follow me if you wanted to. Catch you guys on the next one, man. Yeah.